Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to this course on transition metal organometallics in catalysis and biology. In this course, so far we have been talking about various kinds of olefin metathesis reaction apart from other industrial processes reactions which has come out of organometallic chemistry discoveries. In the context of olefin metathesis, we have covered alkene metathesis and alkyne metathesis, and we had seen how there exists a similarity or parallel of reactions for both this kind of metathesis reaction, alkene as well as alkyne metathesis. And today we are going to discuss another interesting topic in more detail, which is called alkene alkyne metathesis reaction. Alkene or which is called IIN metathesis reactions. Now, in order to understand this reaction, this reaction is kind of a bit different than its predecessors, which is alkene metathesis or alkyne metathesis, and in order to understand this we need to reflect on the initial characteristics of these two alkene metathesis and alkyne metathesis individually. So, let me just start with alkene metathesis, which is the reaction between these two olefins giving this, and the catalyst present is a metal carbene species. So, this is a metal carbene catalyst. Now, the alkyne metathesis is also a similar kind of reaction, and it involves two types of alkynes giving 2 of the mixed alkyne, and the catalyst is a metal carbene catalyst. So, this is alkyne metathesis and the earlier one that we had discussed was alkene metathesis. So, now the question comes, what about the reaction that we are discussing now, which is alkene alkyne metathesis. So, now this has both the substrates which we will take a look. This has both the substrates, for example, so it has both the substrates and alkyne and as well as an alkene, and the question which comes to mind is which one of the catalyst would be a more would be able to carry out such metathesis. So, as far as the catalyst is concerned, which of the catalyst would partake in ion metathesis. So, this is an intrinsic question. This means that there are possibility of metal carbene versus metal carbine. So, the interesting thing to note over here is that the first question is this, which of these two catalysts, the carbene or the carbine, would be effective for this in-ion metathesis reaction that involves reaction of alkene and alkyne. Now, the next question which comes to the fore with regard to this chemistry is the question number 2. It says, okay, even if one of the two is, or both of them is effective for carrying out this in-ion mechanism, in-ion metathesis, then the question is what will be the sequence of metathesis reaction? What would be the sequence of metathesis reaction? By this, whether it will be in and then ion metathesis versus ion in metathesis. So, this also is a very relevant and interesting question, is that even if either of the two is effective in carrying out this metathesis of alkene and alkyne, then the question is which one would be the first to undergo metathesis, whether this is in-ion metathesis where the alkene would undergo metathesis first followed by the alkyne, or it is ion in metathesis which would be starting with alkyne first and then ion alkene in the order of the metathesis reactions it would go. So, so these are important questions like what kind of catalyst, what would be the sequence of reactions, as now the substrates contain both unsaturated alkyne as well as alkene. And then another interesting attribute is that they can be present in the same molecule, which can be in tar molecular or intramolecular. So, both possibility exists for alkene alkyne metathesis reaction. Now, these are the issues that had challenged the people who had been working in the areas, and several studies has been done in order to elucidate the exact mechanism or exact active species responsible for this E9 metathesis reaction. And to sum up the finding, what is said that it is the metal carbene complexes, they are effective for alkene alkyne metathesis reactions. So, the catalyst are indeed these metal carbene species. The evidences point that the active species are indeed the metal carbene species which is responsible for alkene alkyne metathesis reaction. Now, with respect to the second question, that what would be the sequence of metathesis, whether it will be a olefin first and then alkyne second metathesis, or alkyne first olefin second metathesis. The answer to that which the evidences point is that this in-ine metathesis which is supposedly the one which is followed in most of the cases and most popular. So, the take home point is that alkene alkyne metathesis or in-ine metathesis is a complex metathesis maneuver which has come out of this individual step classes of alkene metathesis and alkyne metathesis, and given the complexity that arise regarding the pathway, the metal carbene species are supposed to be the active species for this E9 metathesis. And second thing, that the mechanism proceeds by in first or E9 metathesis, that olefin gets attacked first and then alkyne undergoes metathesis second. So, I am going to now go deep into this the mechanistic aspect of this E9 mechanism and talk about these in bit more detail. So, now of these there can be two variants, as I said, that this can undergo intermolecular as well as intramolecular, and I am showing it by examples. To catalyst giving R1. So, this is the example of intermolecular E9 metathesis. Similarly, the intramolecular metathesis are also reported, which involves a bridging group or substrate containing a linker in which the substrate contains both the alkene and the alkyne moiety are present. And then the catalyst, as I mentioned, is that in the present case also this is a carbene type of the catalyst, which gives a product of the type this is a 5 membered. So, this is an example of intramolecular E9 metathesis, but in this case as there is a ring closing occurring in place, ring closing in place. So, this mechanism is also popularly called as ring closing anion metathesis. Or RCEYM. This is called ring closing anion metathesis. So, both the possibilities, as I mentioned earlier, exist for the anion mechanism, and we are going to take a look at it in bit more detail as we look at individual example. Anion metathesis, examples. Now, I am going to illustrate this with respect to the intramolecular substrate. As is shown over here. Now, this reacts with the ruthenium carbene complex, so this will give this metallocyclopropane intermediate, and that will further rearrange to give this olefin and the substrate activated ruthenium carbene species. Now, this then would go through this intermediate as is shown over here, to give cyclobutene intermediate of the type this, which will then rearrange as is shown over here to give the desired active species on the R. Now, there are two intermediates being formed, metallocyclobutane intermediates. This is called metallocyclobutane and this one is called metallocyclobutene intermediate. So, a transition state, these are the transition state. Now, once this is formed, which I will draw it over here. The first path is about in first. So, metathesis what we are observing happens on the olefin, that is the first pathway is the in first, and then the second pathway where the metathesis of the ine would happen, and for that these species goes and enters into a second cycle as is shown over here. Now, in this the first substrate further adds to give where similar kind of transition state, metallocyclobutane's transition state is further formed. As is shown over here, and then this transition state undergoes rearrangement to give the product and the active species of the ruthenium species of the type this that then undergoes again metathesis with the ine to give this metallocyclobutene as is shown over here. And that further undergoes rearrangement to give the species which is this. So, the driving force of this reaction is the formation of conjugated 1,3-diene. Formation of conjugated 1,3-diene provides driving force for the reaction. So, the formation of this conjugated diene provides the driving force for this reaction. Now, what we had seen that this enine mechanism is quite complex, and actually it involves a number of steps in which the first is that the metal carbene complex proceeds with in first mechanism, where it does not attack the alkyne, but attacks the olefin first, and then it undergoes a metallocyclobutane intermediate. Once it has formed the metallocyclobutane intermediate with the ruthenium carbene on the substrate, then it attacks the alkyne to give a metallocyclobutene intermediate, which undergoes rearrangement to again giving the ring closing metathesis. So, it closes the ring, and the active site now resides on the vinyl carbene, which is stable. Now, that reacts with the second substrate again to give a metallocyclobutane intermediate. Butane which undergo metathesis to give this 1,3 conjugated diene product, which is this, which is the provides the driving force and for the reaction, and then it undergoes the reaction with the second alkyne moiety to give a metallocyclobutene butene species, then and subsequently goes back to the starting product. So, one thing which is important is to note is that this species, this vinyl carbene species of the substrate, these two species are exactly the same species, and they get translated from one cycle to the another cycle and carry out this enine metathesis. We are going to talk more on the mechanistic aspect of this in first pathway of enine mechanism as we move in the next lecture. However, we have come to the end of this lecture, in which we have just looked into various mechanistic pathway that are possible for enine mechanism. We have also looked into the rationale that behind this enine mechanism, starting with questions like what is the active species, whether it is a metal carbene species or a metal carbine species which would be effective for this enine metathesis, because enine contains both alkene and alkyne, and what we have found is that it is the carbene species, metal carbene species which carries out this inine metathesis. We have also looked into other aspects like whether it is going to be the alkene first pathway or alkyne first pathway, and in this class we have summarized the effectiveness of alkene first pathway which involves two cycles or two different types of pathways combined as is shown by the pink and the green cycles, and then we have also looked into the conditions which will provides the driving force for this inine first pathway, which is nothing but the formation of this conjugated 1,3 dienes. So, with this I conclude today's discussion on inine metathesis mechanism, and we are going to dwell a bit more on the other possibility, which is the ine first and the effectiveness of inine mechanism as we meet in the next class. Till then, thank you for being with me in this class, and I look forward to being with you in more details when we take up this inine mechanism next in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye and thank you.